Hi, my name is Kate and welcome to my channel. Today I'm very excited to introduce you Deborah MacNamara. She is a clinical counselor, educator and author with more than 25 years of experience. She is a faculty member of Neufeld Institute, focusing on developmental psychology, attachment theory, neuroscience, and practical parenting strategies. I hope you will enjoy our conversation with Deborah. Let us know in the comments your thoughts, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends. Let's say we're talking about the family and the child who has these dominance issues, not because he was born like that or she was born like that, because it happens so, with everybody having good intentions. And what would be the first steps for this? The parents, the family, to start to bring the hierarchy back and bring this whole situation to the more to the place where the child can rest and grow, actually.
Yeah, and that's exactly the question: is how do we bring a child to rest in our care for whatever might be stirred up, whatever challenges they're facing, if there's dominance issues, peer orientation, whatever it is. What is our role? Well, first of all, don't think it's too late. Don't think it's impossible. It may feel very frustrating. It may feel very overwhelming. And so I'd say get the support that you need, whatever that looks like: a good friend, friends, therapist, parent consultant, whoever it is that can walk beside you, grandma, grandpa, and just sink into a little bit of insight and understanding. Okay, what has turned the tables on my relationship? And do a bit of an assessment as much as you can, and take a look at it. What would it look like for my child to rest in my care again? I address that chapter 5 in Rest, Play, Grow. Talk a lot about the dominance problem and the strategies. But so part of it though is hanging in there and realizing this can turn around. I can't tell you how long because it's different for everybody, but it can be turned around. So all is not lost. Number 2 is to find ways, and you don't have to do this in any particular order, but to find ways where the child needs you. And oftentimes that's better done outside the house. Inside the house, I find with dominance problems, children are quite aware of their surroundings. They're quite able to get what they need in those surroundings. They've orchestrated lots of stuff here, and it's not purposeful, intentional. They're not being manipulative. They're just being true to the instincts and the emotions that are driving them. But get outside. Find yourself where you can naturally be in the lead. Are you going for a hike? Are you taking them out for something to eat? You're going out for a walk, a bike ride, whatever it is that you do. I bet your child will be maybe not easy to get outside, but once you get them out there and you're able to lead them and they have to rely on you, typically you see a whole different child. That is who your child is when they're depending upon you. And I've seen just these, oh yeah, I love my child when I'm outside one-on-one or going for a hike, and they cry, they talk, and as soon as we start to get back into going into the house or whatever it is, I can see this dominance kind of bossiness start to appear. Well, give them a little bit of something to be, bossy about. Can you open the door with the keys? Can you tell everybody what we did today? We're going to get a dessert for dinner. Can you tell everybody what we got? Give them something to be in charge of. That's really helpful. The third thing to do or to think about is how could you use play? How could you use play where a child can discharge a lot of this dominance in play, not on top of another child, because that probably isn't going to be play for that other child. But they all tend to like, I found, a lot of forts, hideaways, their own sort of dwelling, shields, superhero kind of fantasies where they're in charge of like the store, the hotel, the vet, whatever it is. They're in these positions of authority and they're serving to help other people. The other thing they can do, which is quite interesting, is they can play quite dependent and needing help in play as well. And that can, if a parent is playing with them in this context, you can move in to take care of the child in play much more readily than they would let you when it's not play. So using play as a wonderful way to discharge some of this energy is very, very helpful. I think also until you can get a better hold on a child and they are more willing to follow you, the fatal thing here is to say, this is what I need you to do, and to be very direct. That should work with our children who are depending on us and want to follow us. But see, the problem is if our children aren't depending on us and think and are moved to be in charge of us, as soon as you say do this, the brain says don't do it. So when you have dominance issues, everything is in reverse. So being very clear, being very explicit, this is the plan for the day, this is what we're doing, this is how I'm going to help you, which should seem most natural and easy to do, backfires. So sometimes taking a temporary step away from that is very helpful. Just use some structure and routine, just get some stuff going. Let go of the things that don't matter. Avoid the direct requests, being less explicit, using other children to help orchestrate your child, just working around the impasses, and rather than going headlong into every impasse to get the child to behave at all costs. That tends to just reinforce dominance problems in the home. So sometimes you have to hold your nose and say, oh, this isn't right, but I'm just going to not take on every single battle that I can. And so anyway, there's many different strategies, but that gives you a bit of a flavor.
And it feels like we need to be quite creative at the same time, just to see this problem in a bigger context probably, and not really fight over each situation, each battle.
And yeah, that's exactly well said. And I think for some parents, when they hear that, they're like, I'm already exhausted. I'm already working hard. I'm not asking you to work harder. I'm just saying, just do it different, because oftentimes what we're doing isn't working. Telling the child directly, getting into battles, trying to figure it out in the home, using play, all these things help us. And we just have to work differently. You're working really hard, but I'm not sure, when there are dominance problems, you can't treat the child as if they were following you, because they're just not.
And with the play, from one side, I find it really so impactful and useful in a day-to-day, even life with the child and interaction with the child. But at the same time, I feel that it's very hard to find this inner energy and source to be playful yourself when you're already at the age, at the edge, at the parent. So I totally understand that, sometimes you don't have this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not saying you have to actually play with a kid. You don't have to play with a child. You could merely just set up, like help them set up a fort thing and just let them go and have their little island. Like often this is much better if they could say, oh, I want to learn how to play the piano, and they're like off and running, and I'm going to keep, competing against myself, because the competition, how competitive they are. They always have to be first. They insist, nothing's ever fair when you get stuck. And remember, this is being stuck. This isn't all kids. It's when dominance issues get stuck. And so you can let them compete against themselves. You don't even have to be there for that. You might find that they just want to, take charge in the kitchen, and they want to bake stuff and stuff. It's just like, let them. You don't necessarily have to be part of that, but give it some space. Give it a bit of a runway, and no. You're exhausted. If you could get some reprieve by getting them engaged in an activity that you don't have to be part of, that's exactly what you need when you have, as a parent overall, but especially when you have some dominance issues. You need to gather yourself.
If we can get even more practical, let's say we take some typical situation like morning time, morning routines, and we need to get to school, let's say, and we know there is a dominance issue already, but tomorrow we still need to go to school. And how? So what would be your ideas, or maybe some ideas that you could share with the parents, like how can we start changing this routine and path that we can come outside house on time and be at school on time?
Well, I wish I had a magic wand to just make this all happen. It would be, I don't want to pretend to anybody that this isn't hard, and that wouldn't be anything that someone would struggle with, and that my top 10 tips are going to help you save the day here. It's just difficult. And so these are guidelines. These are ways to look at it. Until the child is at rest, everything is a struggle. So, just plan to have struggles in that sense, and be prepared, and give yourself as much space and time as you need, and not to put more pressure. And as soon as they feel coercion, or you feel coerced or pressured, everything gets exponentially worse. So just do what you can, get lunches made, do whatever you can to get the pressure off you in the morning, or at least to not let them see there's pressure there as much as you can. I think for most parents, getting out the door in the morning and getting our young kids moving, like, that's overrated for them. They'd like to stay at home and play and be in their pajamas, and probably most adults would as well, to be honest with you. So So most kids are reticent to get going in the morning, and that doesn't mean you've got a dominance problems. It just means they know what they like. So, collecting is always wonderful in the morning. Collect and engage the attachment of your child. That might look like reading a book, spending some time together, helping them get dressed if that's going to be a problem, helping them pick out their clothes. Just slow it down and connect with them a little bit, warm things up, and try to avoid putting them over to devices. I find devices are very difficult to get a young child off of. It's very difficult for us to get off of devices sometimes. Go to bed. I know I should go to bed, but I just want to watch one last show. Like, adults struggle with this, let alone our children. So try not to put anything in their way that you're going to have to compete with. Keep them connected, keep them close by, playing, reading a story, whatever it is, as much as possible, and try to use that to get out the door. You can use play in all sorts of different places. Like who's going to come in the car ride for us today? Which one of your stuffed animals do you want to introduce to the car ride, or the walk to school, or take on the bus, or whatever it is? Just be creative. Keep play and connection in your mind sight, and be creative with the rest, and try something one day, change it up. Use structure and routine. They know what's coming, but keep them close and try not to put too many competing things in their way. Like if there's another sibling, like just make sure you're in there, because you can get them really distracted and off track. But yeah, survive as much with everybody's dignity intact. It's not easy.
It is. I found really useful to have this extra time in the morning, like really do everything which is more logistics wise, let's say in the evening, and just have more space for myself and for the child. And that really helped a lot and changed the dynamic for us, for example.
No, and it's a lovely way for us to start too. I have a little nephew I was visiting in Montreal, and he would come up and he would wait for me to get up. And as soon as I got and came into the kitchen, it was just, hug, and then he would just put his head on my shoulder. He's 2, and we'd have to stay like that for 5 or 10 minutes, and then he was ready to go on and out into his world. And I thought, oh, I needed this. I needed to. Oh, it just made me sit, made me have a cup of coffee. It was only 5 or 10 minutes, but yeah, we're in such a hurry, and today's parents, we are so busy. We're so busy with our work and trying to survive in so many ways. So we know this, but it's hard to do. But it works. That's the whole thing: is to slow down and take some time to warm up.
Deborah, I wanted to ask you, because we were mentioning this book, but I know recently you published a new book, Nourished. So could you say a couple of words about this book, and what is it about, and why somebody would be interested to read it?
Thank you. So Nourish took me about 10 years of research, writing, and interviewing people. I knew I would be writing this book even as I was writing Rest, Play, Grow. Um, and really, it's nourished food. It's nourished connection food and caring for our kids and everyone else we love. And it's a very different take on how relationships and food were meant to come together and how they've come apart. It's not about eating dinner together at the table every night. It's not about the nutrition you need to feed your kids. It's not about how to shove, food into your picky eater, although we do tackle picky eating. It's something fundamental to human existence, which is that our children are most receptive to our caretaking when they feel connected to us and they rest in our care. Whether we're leading them to school or homework or sleep, our kids are most receptive to our values, to what we have to offer. But one of the areas that seems to be ignored is around food. We've become much more focused on their behavior at the table, the nutrition. Nutrition's important, but it's secondary to the relationship, in the sense that if you have a strong relationship, a child rests in your care, you have the best chance of getting in the food that you want to get in to the food, not through coercion, not through pressure, but through relationship and creating the conditions for healthy eating and feeding. So it came from a challenge I was having with my 3-year-old who wasn't eating well, and I had created an attachment issue. Even though I know all of this stuff about attachment, I had created an attachment issue with my daughter because I was trying to force feed her out of frustration, out of alarm, out of upset in me. And when I went to Gordon Neufeld and said, look what, what's going on, he wouldn't answer my question because not directly anyway, he made me go and search a little bit to make sense of the question that I was asking. It wasn't about food. It was about the relationship. And when I discovered that, everything sort of opened up for me. So it's a book. It's a very different look at food and human connection and how relationship comes first. Abraham Maslow got it wrong. Relationship comes first. And in the context of relationship, we're meant to deliver the nourishment to our kids so we have overall nourishment for them. So that's where that's at.